Hi, welcome to a review of Director Suite 6 by Cyberlink. And what this is it's an entire package of audio visual editing programs, and they're all displayed right here. And I'm going to go through each of them briefly, giving you some idea of what their capabilities are. Whether you're doing a video production, and that can range all the way from something like a family trip to an actual business production, or if you're an indie filmmaker, or if you're a music producer or soundscape producer for the gaming industry or independent musicians. This suite has just about everything you'd need. Also, if you're a semi-pro photographer, it's also got PowerDirector on there. So I think that software comes in three varieties for me. One is you get something and you go, wow, I never had that capability before, and I'm going to have to figure out how to use it, but wow, it was just would have not been feasible to do that before I had that software. An example of that would be something like Blender to do 3D kinds of things, or something like, a software compiler for a programming language that you weren't able to use previously, or a morphing program. There are some things that are just brand new capabilities. There are, on the other extreme, there's a category of things that are kind of improvements and tweaks to things you already have. So I would say things like the whole Isotope series of noise reduction and sound enhancement tools are like that. They're very, very good. They're awesome. I own many of them. But really, they're just improvements on something that already existed. I mean, you could always do that kinds of stuff with more or less difficulty, but having them is really super value added. And then there's this middle category of things, and that's where I would put this product. This actually has completely changed my workflow for how I do videos. And just for the record, this is being done under the auspices of this suite, and I'm doing it soup to nuts just to try it out. And again, what I would tell you is that rather than going to literally 12 different programs to do little niche boutique things, now I can do it all in one. Also, just to start things off on the right foot, I'm using the screen recorder here to record the screen in Windows 10. I was able to use another program that only worked within certain windows to record earlier. Its program's about 13 years old at this point. I've got the newest version, but it will remain nameless. But I was unable to get anything that would do a full screen real-time capture before in video form, and this one does, and it's just does a remarkable job at it. So let's go ahead and take a look. Oftentimes, where you'll start with this PowerDirector, and you're going to see it load up relatively quickly, and it gives you some choices of what to do right off the bat. Now, one thing I want to point out is this suite of software integrates in the newest formats and the newest layouts. For example, Little Planet is all the rage these days, and 360 film editing, where you've got essentially a whole look around, and it allows the viewer to change his or her point of view, move around, and see what you're seeing all the way around. And you can do that. You also see that we've got something that looks like it's set up for a phone, and then you've got the normal widescreen and then 4:3. So we've got three ways right off the bat of doing things. You can either kind of drag things in if you've got a bunch of things that you're cobbling together. If you want to get into detailed editing, you can go into timeline mode. And then if you have a series of pictures you want to put together, let's say from a trip or something, or a wedding portfolio or something, you can do that in slideshow creator. I'm going to go in the timeline mode because that's the one that really has the most options available to us right off the bat. And you see it's coming up here right now. Now, if you used any of the Pinnacle products previously, this will look extremely, extremely familiar to you. So essentially, you start off with, you can capture is, sometimes you don't start off in capture. Often it starts off in edit because most of the time you've probably already got your, your video in the can, so to speak, if you're going into this one. The only live item I have is, and this is probably the only time you'll ever see my face in a video that I'm doing a review. This is this camera here. So you could do the live camera. I've got several audio recording devices. And then look at this. We can also come in, we could bring in something from an optical device, or we could capture from the screen, which is what we're doing in actuality here. All right, so what about in edit if you go back into edit mode? Well, you also have the possibility here, you can search your library, but what else can you do? You can also import media. So if you have something from another source and you want to bring it in, you can just click it in and look at all the things it lets you do. You can import them, you can import a folder, you can download it from the Cyberlink cloud and they give you a huge amount of free storage. You can get sound clips, or you can bring in photos from Flickr. So all of these kinds of things. So we'll explore that just a little bit more. Well, essentially what it does is it goes through and it scans through the folder and figures out what you're going to do. Then you bring it down. So let's go ahead and bring in a video. They've got some examples of 360 video right here. Let me bring in just a common non-360 video. So we'll bring that into that particular timeline. Again, if you're familiar with previously with the Pinnacle controls, these are virtually identical to those. And now there's a bunch of pretty cool things that you can do. Let's see if I've got, so it's this one down here. These are all pictures. So one of the neat things you can do is if you've got two clips of something, it's a 3D, so that's not going to work so well. Well, let's highlight this one. So you can go into Designer, you could do a picture-in-picture kind of thing, you could create a view designer, which is really kind of a way of bringing things in and out with transitions, and then look when you click on the Fix and Enhance, all of the different options. And this is, quite frankly, where a lot of the other parts of the suite will come in. So some of these are going to come from the color director, some of them are going to come from other of the tools that are available out there. And then obviously the audio director is going to do some of the denoising for the audio side. Color director is going to help out with color match and color presets and color enhancement, etc. And then there's some extremely neat things you can do. So let's actually do HDR effect, which is, I think, one of the cooler things, and we'll add split toning to that. So right now they've got kind of a neutral gray. Those of you who've done professional photography and cinema know that often when you're doing outdoors filming, you'll actually put a gray lens filter on, so you more or less neutralize the effects of the background, and it gives the director in the post-production maximum opportunity to add effects and that type of thing. But let's say that our highlights in this particular case, we don't want them to be gray like that. We're going to make them stunning blue, okay? And look what happened. And then our shadows, we got those greens out there. We're going to make them more kind of a jungly kind of green. I mean, it just crazy level of, and look at that. You know, it looks like something from the Flintstones or a cartoon or something. So pretty cool. Notice here also you can keyframe, and I haven't had, I have a lot of experience with keyframing from things like Flash and Blender and Poser and a bunch of other programs. And Sony Vegas, but I haven't had a chance, honestly, to do much with the keyframes on this one. One of the neat things is if I put two video clips side by side, I can pairwise give them the same color space. And that's a big deal. With those of, especially, I've done a lot of work with indie film people, and that's a big deal, trying to get the color space down. If you're doing it, and you can do it, this goes back to my earlier comment, you could do it in things like Sony Vegas or any of the Avid series of things, etc., any of the Adobe products. But it would take a lot of effort to do that, and you'd do a lot of things with keyframes, and you'd move from scene to scene or within the scene, and every time you change a shot, you'd have to try to reapply and make sure you got the director's view of what the color should be. Now it's literally key clicks away. You could record that as a keyframe, what the setting is, and you could apply that throughout. So very, 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 have I mentioned very impressive? Yeah. Now look at this. When you click on produce, look at what options we have. So now we've got many things that we could do, and it's thinking, it's coming up. All right, so we've got standard 2D, which, just think about that as any old film you want to watch. You know what 3D is. You know what device is. That's if I want to export something to, well, we'll take a look. I can put it out to an Android device. I could put it out to my PlayStation. It could go to my Xbox. It can go to in the Apple products, or I can do a generic HDD, HDV, or DV type of file. Again, if you want it to be generic, and from an online choice, it is set up to work directly with your accounts for Facebook and YouTube, Dailymotion, Vimeo. And these two, which I've never worked with before, but they're set on here as well. And look at all the choices you have. It goes all the way from 320 by 180, which I don't know if that's standard quality or not. Pretty much everything I do is in the 1920 1080 range, honestly. But now you can go all the way up to 4K. Let's go back to the 2D for a second and take a look at all the things you can do. So standard Windows output AVI, you can do a WVM file, you could do MPEG-2, which of course is your DVD standard. You can put out a variety of sound files, and then you can do things even in proprietary Sony, you can even do things in proprietary Sony formats now. So let's take a look at that, and that goes all the way up to 3840 by 2160. I mean, just remarkable. Actually, more than that. It goes up to 3840, but yeah, 2160, 60p. Just incredible, 60 megabits a second. Now, truth in lending, you're not going to want to be. That's going to require quite a lot of disk space. So unless you're using a 100 gigabyte Blu-ray or something, you're probably not going to be recording in that extreme. And but that's okay. It's all good. And then we got all of the extensions on the venerable 264 standard. You know, so the MPEG-4, which we're all familiar with, and take that all the way up to MPEG-4 4096 by 2160. So again, just incredible. And then, you know, some of the more cutting edge things. The 265 standard, and very, very impressive. Okay, so I'm going to get out of the, and then it lets you create a whole bunch of discs, and to include titles and different menus, etc. So there's not time during this. There's simply not time during this review to go over all of the different things, but quite impressive. So we've got the menu structure. It's drag and drop. You can connect different things in. It's very intuitive. The last program that I saw that was kind of in the same league as this in terms of intuitive, easy to use, was something called DVD Maker from the 1990s. You can't even get a hold of it anymore. But it was about the same level, same level of ease of use and choices of things you could do. So you get to pick whether you want it to be 3D or 2D. So here we go. There's how do you handle that, and it's just going to be a 2D view of it. Talks about all the, again, how we want to set the menu, and then what kind of a disc you want to do. So for 2D disc, you can do a regular DVD, so that's dual-sided, single-sided, and then the kind of small demo disc. On the Blu-ray side, single-sided, double-sided, and then it's got high-density ones. You got to make sure that your burner will work with that. So, for example, I have a pretty nice Blu-ray burner. Theoretically, it can handle a dual-layer Blu-ray. In practice, it doesn't actually do a great job. And this is, of course, a previous AVC HD was kind of a competitor with Blu-ray. There are still many devices that will use it. It does have some kind of cool advantages in terms of portability. Anyhow, you can also work the same thing down here. One of the neatest things I found out about this is, look, you can actually do it in AC3 Dolby Digital, or you can do it in DTS, and you can do it in 5.1 channels. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Now, it says that you can enable Cyberlink True Theater Surround. I am not... Truth in Lending, I do not know 100% what that is. It works with Dolby Digital, and I think what it does is it's just the layout that it allows you to put things... Oh, I see. It's in a... Okay, I'm learning in real time while I'm doing this. This is faux multi-channel. So in other words, it will take your two channels and it will try to spread them around in such a way that it sounds like it's N.1 when it's actually two channel. That's kind of cool. Me personally, I probably just stick with most of my stuff is either mixed for Dolby Digital. If I do multi-channel, it's set up usually for Dolby Digital. Then I have some DTS when I have my Minnetonka license active. All right, I'm going to get out of this, and we're just going to very briefly step through the other products. Nope, I don't need to save. All right, so we saw that. That was the PowerDirector, which is kind of the base tool. And then we've got these subsidiary things. So you've got your audio director, which is tied in, and you saw some of the tied-ins when it talked about enhancing sound, etc. I will cut much of this out. So what can we import? If you take a look at the media that allows you to import, one of the things you can do is come over here and take a look. So audio files, it lets you do, you can do waves, you can do WMA, MP3, M4A, which is often an Apple standard. We got FLAC, AIF, and it's spelled both ways, OGG, APE, DSF, DFF, and AAC. So quite a variety of things. Most programs, except for FFmpeg, which is a command line thing, are not going to be able to do that. And then we've got the whole panoply as well, including transport stream versions of video files that would have audio in them as well. So pretty impressive, honestly. Um, let's see, what else should we talk about? I think, again, I could spend hours and hours going through all these kinds of things, but bottom line is it lets you import things. You can, there's some, well, let me see if I can bring in a file, because there's actually a couple. I mean, I'm very excited about this package. I've had it now for about 3 weeks, and my apologies for not getting out a review sooner, but there was just so much stuff that I wanted to explore with it. Let's go to music and see what I've got. Trying to see if I have something that's I was trying to see if I had a multi-channel version of it. Let me see if I got. I probably don't, though, honestly. All right, I'm just gonna. Well, I guess I could do this as a multi-channel, right? I could. Let's bring that in. But then I can just show you some of the base capabilities. All right, so this is just a stereo one. I was when you bring in multi-channel things, it actually will set up more than the 2 channels. And I wanted to show you that, but all right. So basic editing kinds of things. You can see that you've got this, and again, if you're familiar with the Pinnacle series of products, pretty much identical. So you pick the particular area that you want, and you just you highlight that and you pick what you want to do. So you can, if you, let's say we wanted to highlight an area and then we wanted to insert silence, and if you did that, it's updating. It is complete. Okay. And now if we zoomed in there, you'd see a area of silence had been embedded in. The other thing you can do is you can take, if you were doing, and again, this was, I think, really handy from an indie film standpoint. Let's say we're doing a scene on an airplane and you wanted to have kind of an airplane noise in the background. You could actually add, during a particular scene, you could add airplane noises. Or I'm in a car, or I'm in a factory, or there's a machine in the background, or all of these different kinds of things, and just very, very cool. Let me see what else we got. And reverse and fade and boost. Here, just look at some of the effects that you can do. These are all kind of standard. One of the things that people who like to do karaoke can do is do vocal remove in music. Let's see if I can show you the denoiser. Well, let's go to here. Let's go to denoiser. Yeah, so this is kind of a cool feature. So what it lets you do is you could use your magic wand, and you can highlight a particular area of the sound, and it will pick all of the associated frequencies with that, so you can take it all at once. So if you had something like a cymbal clashing in the background, or a bell, or a high-pitched metallic noise, and you found it, you could click on that. You could go ahead and identify it here. Just hit good old delete. You can either do that with the delete key or with the garbage can, and off it goes. So pretty impressive. Let's not highlight anything, but it has the normal stuff that you'd expect. So your P's and T's and your S's, it will get rid of here. Again, I generally in the past use Isotope to do that. Hiss removal, same thing. This was something I used to do with Isotope. Hum. Now, what I haven't done yet is a runoff between the two of them. I think Isotope would get the edge, honestly, but it's also not integrated into my workflow the way this is. I mean, the amount of easy access I get with this program is incredible. We talked about, I think we already talked about Color Director a little bit, PowerDirector, Screen Capture, Photo, and then Wave Edits, just like it sounds. It's if you want to get more detail than in a particular wave file, doing things to it, actually sculpting it, you would do that with Wave Editor. Anyway, that's probably about it. I got to tell you, this is a 5 out of 5, no doubt about it. For less than $200, you're pulling in software capabilities that literally have cost me over $1,200, and I could not be happier. And if I want to go and plus something up and do a little bit of an NLE, a nonlinear process, I can still do that. There's nothing here that prevents me from doing that. But the capability to import both Apple formatted kinds of things as well as PC formatted kinds of things, and work in all of the extremely high definition, and it's all 64-bit, so it works, completely works and is integrated with my architecture in the Windows 10. It's all for the good. So that's it for now. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you at the next review.